Welcome to Everyday Ethics, folks. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, here all by my lonesome for today and tomorrow, as Persephone had things to do. Please remember that we love your super chats and super stickers, and also remember to check us out everywhere we are. Go to the channel, The Rational Alternative. We've got an abundance of shows. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. I've been through all of them 100 times. Right now, I want to figure out how to get this episode here to Mark Pellegrino so that I can't do it. It's not working, so it doesn't really matter. Hello, Lee. How are you doing today? I hope you are doing well. I'd be doing better if my X was working properly, but it is not. So I'm a little screwed, but I've got a show for you today. Now you can hear, now it works so that you can hear the echo. I have been doing a little reading. I was thinking today, what could we talk about given that I'm all alone? And I thought it might be fun to talk about your everyday sort of common sense ethics. Lee says she has a boyfriend. Okay, Lee, I guess I've been replaced then. That's okay. Let me get rid of this. So what I did was I wanted to get an idea, basically, of what would be the sort of common sense ethic. You know what I mean? Like, what would your average person think that ethics were, or that ethical views were? Because everybody seems to have a view of morality. Not everybody can defend it. So one of the things we want to do with this show is get you to rethink your ethical views, change those that need to be changed, live an ethical life, but also be able to justify your ethics. Not necessarily in a debate context, but at least to yourself, so that you understand that you're applying a rational view. So some of the principles that Claude spit out at me as being basically intuitive, that people have an intuitive sense that these are right and wrong. Harm avoidance, they say that's probably the most universal. Fairness and reciprocity, they say, run very deep. Honesty, keeping your word. Loyalty and care for your own. We're going to come back to this. But it says family, friends, community. Most people think you have stronger duties to those close to you than to strangers. This is in tension, it says, with an impartialist ethic. Desert and proportionality, the sense that people should get what they earn or deserve, that would be, justice. Autonomy, minding your own business. And then they say special obligations to children, to the vulnerable, to those who depend on you. It talks about how, it's largely deontological in structure, common sense ethic. People think in terms of duty, rights, and rules rather than calculating outcomes, even if they can't articulate why. This type of answer would drive me crazy. That's just wrong. I get this a lot when I'll ask somebody to justify their view, and they'll say, "Oh, if you don't see it, then you're no good," or if you don't see it, you never will." That type of thing, because they have a sense of they just know, and it doesn't have to be proven or demonstrated. They say it tends to be backward looking on punishment, very retributive rather than consequentialist. Guilty people deserve to suffer. So I want to go back a little bit and just see. So harm avoidance. Most people believe you shouldn't hurt others unnecessarily. I think that's true, is that you shouldn't, we would say, initiate force against others. You shouldn't cause people harm. I think that's accurate. I don't want to go through a whole, not yet. Maybe if we run out of time, or if I run out of things to talk about, I'll go through justifications. I just right now want to talk about basically things that with which I would tend to agree. And harm avoidance, I would basically agree with. Fairness and reciprocity. People have a strong sense that equals should be treated equally. You shouldn't take more than your share. Okay, see, I don't know really what that means. Take more than your share. What is my share? My share of what exactly? Um, and that when you do good for others, it creates an obligation in return. Again, I think in terms of justice, right? Give people what they deserve, give people what they earn. And I guess if they earn their share, that'd be fine. Or if it's a gift, I guess it would be their share. Taking more than your share, I kind of equate with stealing, which of course, I would say would be wrong. I think it would also go against the harm of avoidance that they talked about earlier. Also, the doing good for others creates an obligation. I don't know about all that. I think in terms of trade, right? So if I enter into a verbal agreement with you, then yeah, sure, you should give me back, give me in trade what you've agreed to. I even think that in terms of friendships, that it ought to be not all give from one party and take from another. I think of friendships as, value for value relationships. What I don't like, though, is the idea that if somebody does something for me that I haven't perhaps asked them to do, and now I have an obligation to them for that specific thing, I don't really buy into that. Honesty and keeping your word. Most people believe lying is wrong as a default. That promises create genuine obligations, and that deception is a kind of betrayal. Even when harmless, honesty, I think, needs to be grounded much better than that as commitment to reality, acknowledgement of reality. Loyalty and care for your own. Okay, so I got to tell you, I think loyalty is an absolute destructive concept. Um, in the sense of being loyal to, like when somebody says that I'm going to be loyal to him, right? Whether he's right, whether he's wrong, I'm going to be loyal. No, I'm loyal to rational principles. I'm loyal to facts. I'm loyal to truth. I am not loyal to people above principle. Ever. Ever. No way. That's a good way to get yourself in a whole lot of problems. Also, so family, friends, and community. Most people think you have stronger duties to those close to you than strangers. I don't have duties to anything or anybody. That's the first thing. But secondly, while I may value my family members above other people, or I value my friends, in which case, if they are a higher value, then yes, I would definitely treat them differently. I would protect all my values and treat all my values well. But just because somebody shares blood with me does not necessarily mean they're a value. It doesn't necessarily mean that I owe them anything or that I have to do, anything for them. Autonomy and minding your own business. Most Americans especially hold a live and let live intuition. What consenting adults do in private isn't my business. Culturally stronger in America. I think, yeah, you respect the rights of others. You don't initiate force. It doesn't mean I can't judge people for what they do. It doesn't mean that I can't distance myself from people because of what they do. But if they aren't violating people's rights, then I am not going to interject and try to stop them. I'm certainly not going to lobby, for instance, the government to try to stop them or interfere with what they're doing. And then it gets into this here. It says, this is interesting. Pluralistic societies are, it says that this is the common sense ethic is a pluralistic one. It says it's often in tension with itself. Loyalty to family can conflict with impartial fairness. Honesty can conflict with kindness. Most people navigate these tensions case by case rather than with a master principle. Notice how injected in there is a pragmatism, right? Case by case basis. We're not going to use principles. We're going to go by a case by case basis. Kindness also here is sort of elevated, right? Why would kindness take precedence over honesty? Is kindness in and of itself a virtue? And I don't think so. Should I be kind to a killer? Should I be kind to the people trying to rob me? I mean, as a default position. Yes, I think manners are good. I think genuine benevolence is a good thing. But kindness, thank you, Akira, for the real go get 'em attitude. And thank you for your support. Akira is disappointed that I'm by myself today. He's unhappy with that. That's not very kind, Akira, but it might be honest, in which case I would say that's fine. And by the way, when it says that kindness is intention with honesty, I don't see how it's kind to lie to people, right? If I say to you, if I'm going out and I want to make a good impression and I'm rocking this shirt here, and I say, hey, how does this shirt look on me? Because I'm going to say a job interview. And you say, oh, it looks great, slugger, go get him. And it really looks like shit, and I'm going to make a fool out of myself. How is that kind? Right? How is that ever kind? Even in the case, right? Let's say I don't have time to change it. Right? But if I'm aware of it, that it doesn't look good, maybe there's something I can do. You know what I mean? I just don't ever see how these little white lies are supposed to be kind. And if somebody takes honesty as a reason for their feelings to be hurt, that's their problem, right? That's not my problem. If you ask me, well, how do you look? I mean, how do I look? How do I sound? Is this a good essay? Whatever it is, lying to you, if you don't want my answer, again, I've said this a million times, don't ask me. Right? Because I'm not the one that's going to bullshit you. It's just not who I am. It's also not a kind thing to do in my view. This punishment thing, right? Oh, okay. The deontological thing, we've discussed that a million times about duties. No, we don't have duties divorced from consequences. And so when it gets into the retributionist theory of justice, right? And a lot of people hold this. Well, this guy just deserves to suffer. But remember, we're practicing an egoistic ethic, right? So I'm practicing justice because it's in my interest. It's not because somebody deserves this, completely devoid of consequences in context, right? So, for instance, if a person commits a robbery, it might make you feel good to have that person suffer, but it really doesn't. If we're just saying just let them suffer, it's great, and we don't care about what comes afterwards. What does it accomplish, really? What is the point? The reason you want people to suffer the consequences of their bad actions is so that that person will alter their behavior, so others will be deterred from acting in the same behavior. And on a personal level, it's so I can keep people away from me who are going to cause me harm. But it's not just to inflict pain, to inflict suffering on somebody else. That is it's just a pretty disastrous sort of way to live. Let me see if we've got here. I don't want to get too much more into that. So Akira Felix says, yeah, someone called me out on that because I don't lie. I evade. I change the subject whenever things get too serious, at which point is evading confrontation worse than lying? I don't know that it's worse, but I will say this. It's something to be overcome because you want to have the confidence to deal with reality, right? To confront reality head on, to just deal with what is. And you don't want to be evading it. And you don't want to reinforce that habit within yourself as somebody who's afraid of the truth, afraid of the reality, even if that reality is other people, right? You want to be able to confront it, deal with it, and then, see what comes of it. Maybe, if that person's somebody who's going to get offended by you telling them the truth, and perhaps that's not somebody you want to be associating with. I saw a clip earlier today from the movie Gladiator when Russell Crowe says a wise man once told him that death smiles on us all, and all we can do is smile back. And what he's saying is that it's a reality that you cannot change. So why fight against it? Why rebel against it? And now I don't mean by that, don't take steps to be healthy. Don't take steps to maximize your longevity, your flourishing, your well-being. Obviously, that's what an ethic of egoism is all about. It just means don't rebel against the fact that you're going to die, right? You are going to die. Rebelling against that fact is a waste of time. Life can be a struggle at times. I don't know if I really like the word struggle, but I can't find the better one in my mind right now. So we're going to go with struggling. So it can be a struggle. You have to persevere at times. You have to put in effort. So while you can go against the specific struggle that you're having, you can try to overcome it, the obstacles in your way. To try to overcome the fact that life has obstacles, or to deny the fact that life has obstacles, is just a waste of time. Dr. House is kind of a dick, though, just to be a dick. Like, he likes to be an asshole, right? He's not just somebody that tells the truth. Well, I mean, because he's not just concerned with truth. He lies all the time. One of his favorite sayings is "everybody lies." So it's not a commitment to truth that he necessarily has. It's he likes to be a jerk to people. That's a different thing. That's not what we're aiming at here, right? We're aiming at being good people, and part of that is facing reality. So there's that. Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Come with a question. Help a brother out. Like Akira pointed out, I am here all by myself and trying to figure out things to talk about in monologue fashion for a half hour. Not really an easy task. Got to be honest with you. It can be difficult. I was thinking today about the tattoos I want to get. I'm not going to tell you yet which tattoo I think I'm going to get. Because I like it to kind of be a surprise. But I like skin ink. I like tattoos. And so I'm going to do it. That's a value that I have. I think that I probably can run it about $100 for what I want to get. And I think I can afford that. So I think I'm going to get it. I might even go do it tonight. So it might be a surprise. Tomorrow I'll come back. I'll say, hey, I got the new tat. What do you think? What do you think? Today on, if you pay attention, oh, by the way, this is the Rational Alternative channel on YouTube. We're also on Spotify. We're on Twitch usually, not today because Seth isn't here, but we're normally on Twitch. But the channel on YouTube is the Rational Alternative. We have multiple shows. This one here is the Rational Egoist. At 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time today on... I've changed the name of the show to Crime, Criminals, and Corrections, by the way. We're going to be talking about a story that came out of Connecticut about an inmate assaulting 6 correctional officers. I want to both talk about the story and the comments that came with the story. I think those are pretty good. I cannot judge without knowing the idea. I don't know what you're judging, Jim, at this point. Are you judging my tattoos? Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're saying, Jim? You cannot judge without knowing the idea of the tattoo? Maybe, maybe not. Let me know what you're thinking. Akira Felix says, but if I love being honest and people perceive it as being a jerk, then what? Well, you can't dictate other people's perceptions, sir. I mean, if people can't respect that you're honest and that you have a commitment to reality, that's on them. That's not on you. You never can control what other people do or how they respond. You can do the best that you can as a communicator. You can learn how to communicate. You can learn how to best get your message across, and you can be honest with people. How they take it is ultimately up to them. That's not up to you. Jim Valiant, this much I will tell you. Quod erit demonstrandum. I think I said that right. I hope so. So I give you a hint, Jim Valiant, as to the tattoo I'm thinking about getting. I think Jim might be the only one who got that. If other people did as well, that's certainly fine. So yeah, I mean, like, there's ways you can say things to people, and that's okay. It's okay to learn how to communicate to not hurt people's feelings. There's no virtue in just being mean and being a jerk. But like if somebody says to me, "Hey, how does this shirt look on me?" I don't have to say, "Boy, you look like a fat fuck in that shirt. Oh my God, look at your fucking rolls are hanging out the side. That's terrible." Like, you might want to even consider a diet while you're at it. Give up on the Twinkies. You don't have to do all that. You can just say, "No, I don't think that the shirt's not very flattering on you. You can get a new one." The object here is to be honest, not to be a prick. Am I making sense, folks? Am I making sense? Give me some feedback. Akira Felix didn't understand what I said. I don't know what he's talking about. You have to understand. So when you're typing things, and you have to tell me what you're responding to, because it doesn't come immediately after I talk. And so there's abundance of things that I'm saying. Plus, I'm reading what's in the chat. So, capiche? Perfect sense from Jim Valiant. Michael Big Daddy Liebowitz. That's me. I'm the man with the master plan. That's something that happens to me often. I just keep my mouth shut while my mind is about to explode. From Akira Felix. Oh, he doesn't understand the tattoo. In due time, my brother. I'm pretty sure within the next week I will have the new ink. I have Egoist on my left inner forearm. The new tat is going to go on the outer left forearm. And also at some point I want to get this snake covered up. I have a heart with a snake. I don't really like the snake, so I'm going to get that covered up as well with something jazzy. That I'm anticipating being a bit more expensive, so I can't really go out on a limb for that just yet. One thing I dislike about the tattoos, though, is the itchiness. The itchiness that comes for a couple weeks after is a pain, and I'm not a big fan. All right, so what are we talking about here? We were talking about the common sense ethics. And by the way, I think that generally, if people in this world, for instance, just are committed to not doing harm, working hard, paying their bills, taking care of themselves and their family, I think that they can live a decent life. They can be decent human beings. The problem is, though, is that not everything lends itself to folksy wisdom and folksy ethics. Not everything lends itself to, I've always been taught this. There's situations both in everyday life that you will face. Should I give this money to the beggar on the street? Or do I owe the beggar anything? My child wants this. Should I give it to them? The neighbor seems to be infringing on my rights of property. Should I just let it go? And you need to be able to sort of think through these things beyond the emotional level. And especially then when you go a little downstream from ethics and it gets to politics, the type of candidates you're going to be voting for. Because, for instance, if you say, do no harm is a good thing. Okay, but what constitutes harm, right? Is it harmful if I don't vote for welfare? If I don't vote for various government handout programs? Would that be an example of not doing harm? Or fairness? I want to be fair. Well, what's fair? Give people what they deserve. Well, what do they deserve? And how do you figure this stuff out? And your folksy, everyday sort of common sense ethics just not going to solve those issues for you. So it is definitely in your interest to just go a little bit deeper, to rationally ground your ethics according to an objective standard and learn the principles. And I believe Ayn Rand has set those principles out in the Objectivist Ethics. You can read her book, The Virtue of Selfishness. There's an abundance of them. You don't have to become a philosopher, of course. I mean, by golly, I'm not a philosopher, right? But I do care about ethics. I do care about my own behavior. See, this is the thing, folks. You come, you participate, and you make comments, but I need questions. Perhaps the gentlemanly Jim Valiant. By the way, speaking of ethics, Jim Valiant and I did a fantastic job on the virtue of productiveness. You can find it on The Rational Egoist, my other podcast, as among the thousands that I seem to be doing here. Jim Valiant and I had about a 50-minute discussion, part of our series of using OPAR as a means to self-improvement. Think that you definitely would like to check that out. All right, let me see here. Jason Adams says keeping information private when conflicting interests are at stake is one of the tougher ones. I would like you to elaborate on that, but I certainly no. I mean, I've certainly there are difficult situations when, should I tell the person? What happens if I have a commitment to truth, right? Suppose I do something probably that I shouldn't do, that my girlfriend's not going to be happy with. And I'm not talking about cheating on her. I'm just saying something that would upset her if she knew that I did, or, something about my past, whatever it is. In telling her is going to do nothing but harm her. Do I tell her? Do I be honest? I would generally say no. I would not. I would not tell her if were just going to harm her, unless asked. Then I would. I would say so. But there's another part of it that, does the person with whom you are with have a right to know the type of person that you are? And if you're doing something, that's the type of person you are. So maybe the person does have a right to know that. So there are things. So Jason Adams says, say you own a bar and someone comes in with someone who is not their wife. Generally, that's not my business. Now, suppose I'm a good friend of the wife. Well, then I would feel like I should say something. If I had a friend and that person was cheating on the wife, and the wife was not a friend of mine, it's not my place to go say something. It's not my business. If the person were to ask me, the wife were to ask me, I would probably just say to her, that is a conversation for you to have with your husband. And to be honest, like I have a policy. I'll tell you one thing. Of right now, I'm in a relationship, so it's not a big issue. But prior to being in a relationship, if I were to have sex with somebody, and somebody were to ask whether or not I had sex with a person, I would say I don't discuss that. Right? Because it's nobody's business, first of all. And secondly, you're asking me to not only disclose something about myself, but about somebody else as well. So if somebody says to me, who have you had sex with? Right? I'm not going to answer that question. Because it's not. It's not anybody's business. That's not being dishonest. Jim Valiant asked an interesting Jim Valiant says, would you add any virtues to Rand's list? I might add courage. I might add courage, Jim, to that. One might, it might be implied, but I think if I were to add any, I would add courage. And I would define it idiosyncratically if I were to do that as, I would say the willingness to do what's right, even in the face of extreme obstacles or a potential harm. So maybe courage. Nicole Hingle says, following your incarceration, how many people did you intentionally cut out of your life, and was that difficult for you? No, there's not really people that I need to cut out of my life. I did most of that while I was in prison. I mean, I didn't get out and say, I don't, I guess what I'm saying is I don't go and pick out people that I'm going to get in trouble with. So I don't really have to cut people out of my life. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. All right, folks. So we are rapidly running out of time here. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. If you will join me again in about 15 minutes, Crime, Criminals, and Corrections. We're going to discuss this story that came out of Connecticut. We're going to discuss some of the comments around it. I think that you are really going to enjoy the discussion, I guess is what I was going to say. Excuse me for the, brain freeze. Yes, Jim Valiant gives a very nice answer. He asked me if I would add to Rand's list. And Akira said, like David Kelly, and I would have said the same thing. No, I would add it, but I would not then say it's part of objectivism. I would say it's Michael Leibowitz's addition to the philosophy that Michael Liebowitz practices, but I do believe it's consistent with objectivism, is how I would put it. Either way, folks, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much. Please join me in 15 minutes on this very channel, The Rational Alternative for Crime, Criminals, and Corrections. I will see you then. And until then, be ethical. Thank you.